everybody should be open to where they left off with their Phantom Tollbooth words. Draw a squiggly line underneath number 14. You don't have enough room to put the title and at least one whole definition. Go ahead and move on to the next page. And the title of these notes is TPT. Chapter 5. Short. Shrift. And then today's date, March 1st, 2021. And we're going to be starting with number 15. Yes?
The underline?
Oh, yes. Don't forget to underline the title. You put the chapter title in quotations because it's the smaller part of a major work. And then you underline the title because you always underline the title of notes. We're going to start with number 15, which is the word musty. Musty. M-U-S-T-Y. Musty. Mason, if you need to stand for a second and move back to see around me, that's okay. I will try to be moving around, but if I'm taking too long or something, you can stand or scoot your chair back, whatever you need to do. Musty is an adjective. It's a describing word. It means that something has a stale odor. Remember, odor is another word for smell. So musty, M-U-S-T-Y, is an adjective that means that something has a stale odor. That means it smells old. So if you go in an attic, it might smell musty because nobody really goes up there and it's dusty and everything's kind of old and doesn't really get touched often. So musty, M-U-S-T-Y, is an adjective that means that something has a stale odor. Yes?
Are we the vocab cards?
Yes, you will have these vocab cards tonight. So I'll give them to you. Make sure you put them in return school. Make sure you bring your vocab notebook and your pencil back home, unless you have flares at home. Number 16 is the word miserly. Miserly. M-I-S-E-R-L-Y. Miserly. M-I-S-E-R-L-Y. Miserly is another adjective. Now I know it ends with L-Y, but remember, we learned that not every single L-Y word is an adverb. But in this case, it would describe a person. And it means that someone is stingy. So if someone doesn't like to spend a lot of money, they don't like to spend money to help others, you may describe them as miserly. They are stingy. They don't give much away. They keep it all to themselves. Yes, Victoria.
Like when you have like a lot of money and you don't donate it to like any charity.
Yeah, or use it to help anybody. Or even use it much at all. Like, think of in A Christmas Carol, Ebenezer Scrooge. You would describe him as miserly because he doesn't spend much of the money on himself. He doesn't spend much of the money on other people, but he has a lot of it, and he's kind of rude about it. Yes, Mason.
Will that kind of count
As
as a hoarding?
hoarding? Money, definitely. But not necessarily things. I'm trying to think of what a word would be. Miserly is more when it has to do more with money. But that's a good thought. Number 17 is the word disconsolate. Now this is a long word with a short meaning. Disconsolate. D-I-S-C-O-N-S-O-L-A-T-E. Disconsolate. D-I-S-C-O-N-S-O-L-A-T-E. Yes.
Do you think it'll be fine if the door stays open?
Yeah. Just try to remember, if everybody's in here, try to remember. If they don't remember, just you can get up really quick to close it. But we're about to leave, so it's okay. Disconsolate is another adjective. And just like miserly, it would mostly describe people. You could use disconsolate to describe like a place or a thing, unlike miserly, which would only describe a person. But disconsolate would mostly be used to describe a person. And it means that someone is sad and gloomy. So like I said, long word, easy definition. Disconsolate, D-I-S-C-O-N-S-O-L-A-T-E, is an adjective meaning someone is sad and gloomy. Who from the beginning of the story could we probably describe as disconsolate? Carla. Milo. Yes, correct. Yes, Zari.
Is there just 2 more words?
Just one more. Yes, Carla, quickly.
When we're done with this novel study, will we have to take like a vocab test on
No.
the vocab words that
No,
we do?
not over these vocab words. There is no test for
Okay.
these. So sometimes it'll be on your homework, and then you'll also review them when we do the chapter summaries. Number 18, last word for today is the word commendable. Commendable. C-O-M-M-E-N-D-A-B-L-E. Commendable. C-O-M-M-E-N-D-A-B-L-E. Commendable. Guess what part of speech it is, class?
Adjective.
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 Now this can be described, this word can be used to describe a person or a thing, not really a place. But it means someone does or something is worthy of praise. Commendable, C-O-M-M-E-N-D-A-B-L-E, is an adjective meaning that someone does something or something is worthy of praise. So at the end of the Phantom Toll booth, you'll have a project to do. If you do a really good job on the project, I'll say, ooh, your work on that project was commendable. You did something worthy of praise. Or I might say your project itself is commendable, meaning that that project, the thing, is worthy of praise. So it can either describe what someone does or a thing. Okay? Any questions about these words? Any words need spelled? Do you need any words clarified a little bit more? Can you see, Mason? Okay. Victoria, what's your question? Zadie, do you have all these words? And they're spelled correctly? Aaron, can you see well from back there? Okay. I feel like you can because I feel like you can see better. Can you? Okay. Mason, are you good over there? Okay. Okay. Go ahead and put your vocab notebooks away. Get out using your finger to follow along. We are on page 58. Make sure you're listening closely so that you are ready to answer these questions. Chapter 5, Short Shrift. Done what you've looked, angrily shouted one of the salesmen. He meant to say, look what you've done, but the words had gotten so hopelessly mixed up that no one could make any sense at all. Do going to we what are, complained another, as everyone set about straightening things up as well as they could. What was that person trying to say? Aaron.
What are we going to do?
What are we going to do? Very good. For several minutes, no one spoke an understandable sentence, which added greatly to the confusion. As soon as possible, however, the stalls were righted and the words swept into one large pile for sorting. The spelling bee, who was quite upset by the whole affair, had flown off in a huff. And just as Milo got to his feet, the entire police force of Dictionopolis appeared, loudly blowing his whistle. What's funny about that sentence? That part of the sentence. Just as Milo got to his feet, the entire police force of Dictionopolis appeared, loudly blowing his whistle. Victoria, what's funny about that sentence?
There's like a giant, not a giant, there's like a pause, like a big pause.
Okay, but is that funny? Or is that just an observation? What's funny about that sentence? Colin?
Loudly blowing his whistle.
Is that funny? Not really. It's just something that you do. Kingston?
The whole entire police force came.
The whole entire police force came, loudly blowing his whistle. What does that mean? Carla?
There's only one police.
The entire police force is how many people? One. That's why it says, there's a pause and it says loudly blowing his whistle. Now we'll get to the bottom of this, he heard someone say. Here comes Officer Shrift. Striding across the square was the shortest policeman Milo had ever seen. He was scarcely 2 feet tall and almost twice as wide. And he wore a blue uniform with white belt and gloves, a peaked cap, and a very fierce expression. He continued blowing the whistle until his face was beet red, stopping only long enough to shout, "You're guilty, you're guilty," at everyone he passed. "I've never seen anyone so guilty," he said as he reached Milo. Then, turning toward Talk, who was still ringing loudly, he said, "Turn off that dog. It's disrespectful to sound your alarm in the presence of a policeman." He made a careful note of that in his black book and strode up and down, his hands clasped behind his back, surveying the wreckage in the marketplace. Very pretty, he scowled. "Who's responsible for all this? Speak up or I'll arrest the lot of you." There was a long silence. Since hardly anybody had actually seen what had happened, no one spoke. "You," said the policeman, pointing an accusing finger at the humbug, who was brushing himself off and straightening his hat. "You look suspicious to me." The startled humbug dropped his cane and nervously replied, "Let me assure you, sir, on my honor as a gentleman, that I was merely an innocent bystander, minding my own business, enjoying the stimulating sights and sounds of the world of commerce, when this young lad," bless you. "Aha!" interrupted Officer Shrift, making another note in his little book. "Just as I thought. Boys are the cause of everything." "Pardon me," insisted the humbug. But I in no way meant to imply that—" "Silence!" thundered the policeman, pulling himself up to full height and glaring menacingly at the terrified bug. "And now," he continued, speaking to Milo, "where were you on the night of July 27th? "What does that have to do with it?" asked Milo. "It's my birthday, that's what," said the policeman as he entered. "Forgot my birthday," in his little book. Boys always forget other people's birthdays. "You have committed the following crimes," he continued, "having a dog with an unauthorized alarm, sowing confusion, upsetting the apple cart, wreaking havoc, and mincing words." "Now see here," growled Talk angrily, "and illegal barking," he added, frowning at the watchdog. "It's against the law to bark without using the barking meter. Are you ready to be sentenced?" "Only a judge can sentence you," said Milo, who remembered reading that in one of his school books. "Good point," replied the policeman, taking off his cap and putting on a long black robe. "I am also the judge. Now, would you like a long or a short sentence?" "A short one, if you please," said Milo. "Good," said the judge, rapping his gavel 3 times. "I always have trouble remembering the long ones. How about I am? That's the shortest sentence I know." Everyone agreed that it was a very fair sentence, and the judge continued, "There will also be a small additional penalty of 6 million years in prison. Case closed." He pronounced, rapping his gavel again. "Come with me, I'll take you to the dungeon." "Only a jailer can put you in prison," offered Milo, quoting the same book. "Good point," said the judge, removing his robe and taking out a large bunch of keys. "I am also the jailer." And with that, he led them away. "Keep your chin up," shouted the humbug. "Maybe they'll take 1 million years off for good behavior." The heavy prison door swung back slowly, and Milo and Talk followed Officer Shrift down a long, dark corridor lit by only an occasional flickering candle. "Watch the steps," advised the policeman as they started down a steep, circular staircase. The air was dank and musty, like the smell of wet blankets, and the massive stone walls were slimy to the touch. Down and down and down they went until they arrived at another door, even heavier and stronger looking than the first. A cobweb brushed across Milo's face, and he shuddered. "You'll find it quite pleasant here," chuckled the policeman as he slid the bolt back and pushed the door open with a screech and a squeak. "Not much company, but you can always chat with the witch." "The witch?" trembled Milo. "Yes, she's been here a long time," he said, starting along another corridor. In a few minutes, they had gone through 3 other doors, across a narrow footbridge, down 2 more corridors and another stairway, and stood finally in front of a small cell door. "This is it," said the policeman. "All the comforts of home." The door opened and then shut, and Milo and Talk found themselves in a high vaulted cell with 2 tiny windows halfway up on the wall. "See you in 6 million years," said Officer Shrift, and the sound of his footsteps grew fainter and fainter until it wasn't heard at all. "It looks serious, doesn't it, Talk?" said Milo, very sadly. "It certainly does," the dog replied, sniffing around to see what their new quarters were like. "I don't know what we're going to do for all that time. We don't even have a checker set or a box of crayons." "Don't worry," growled Talk, raising one paw assuringly. "Something will turn up. Here, wind me, will you please? I'm beginning to run down." "You know something, Talk?" he said as he wound up the dog. "You can get in a lot of trouble mixing up words or just not knowing how to spell them. If we ever get out of here, I'm going to make sure to learn all about them." I'm sure you're focusing and following along. "A very commendable ambition, young man," said a small voice from across the cell. Milo looked up, very surprised, and noticed for the first time in the half-light of the room a pleasant-looking old lady quietly sitting and rocking. "Hello," he said. "How do you do?" she replied. You'd better be careful, Milo advised. I understand there's a witch somewhere in here. I am she, the old lady answered casually, and pulled her shawl a little closer around her shoulders. Milo jumped back in fright and quickly grabbed Tuck to make sure that his alarm didn't go off, for he knew how much witches hate loud noises. Don't be frightened, she laughed. I'm not a witch, I'm a witch. Oh, said Milo, because he couldn't think of anything else to say. I'm faintly macabre, the not-so-wicked witch, she continued, and I'm certainly not going to harm you. What's a witch? Asked Milo, releasing Talk and stepping a little closer. Well, said the old lady, just as a rat scurried across her foot, I am the king's great aunt. For years and years, I was in charge of choosing which words were to be used for all occasions, which ones to say and which ones not to say, which ones to write and which ones not to write. As you can well imagine, with all the thousands to choose from, it was a most important and responsible job. I was given the title of official witch, which made me very proud and happy. At first, I did my best to make sure that only the most proper and fitting words were used. Everything was said clearly and simply, and no words were wasted. I had signs posted all over the palace and marketplace which said, "Brevity is the soul of wit." But power corrupts, and soon I grew miserly and chose fewer and fewer words, trying to keep as many as possible for myself. I had new signs posted which said, "An ill-chosen word is the fool's messenger." Soon sales began to fall off in the market. The people were afraid to buy as many words as before, and hard times came to the kingdom. But still I grew more and more miserly. Soon there were so few words chosen that hardly anything could be said, and even casual conversation became difficult. Again, I had new signs posted which said, "Speak fitly or be silent wisely." And finally, I had even these replaced by ones which read simply, "Silence is golden." All talk stopped. No words were sold. The marketplace closed down, and the people grew poor and disconsolate. When the king saw what had happened, he became furious and had me cast into his dungeon, where you see me now, an older and wiser woman. That was all many years ago, she continued, but they never appointed a new witch. And that explains why today people use as many words as they can and think themselves very wise for doing so. For always remember that while it is wrong to use too few, it is often far worse to use too many. When she had finished, she sighed deeply, patted Milo gently on the shoulder, and began knitting once again. "And have you been down here ever since then?" asked Milo sympathetically. "Yes," she said sadly. "Most people have forgotten me entirely, or remember me wrongly as a witch. Not a witch. But it matters not, she went on unhappily, for they are equally frightened of both." "I don't think you're frightening," said Milo, and Talk wagged his tail in agreement. "I thank you very much," said Faintly Macabre. "You may call me Aunt Faintly. Here, have a punctuation mark." And she held out a box of sugar-coated question marks, periods, commas, and exclamation points. "That's all I get to eat now." "Well, when I get out of here, I'm going to help you," Milo declared forcefully. "That's very nice of you," she replied, "but the only thing that can help me is the return of rhyme and reason." "The return of what?" asked Milo. "Rhyme and reason," she repeated. "But that's another long story, and you may not want to hear it." We would like to very much, barked Talk. "We really would," agreed Milo. And as the witch rocked slowly back and forth, she told them this story. Okay. Gosh. Let's see. Who knows for a fact that their journal is on the top in the back? Smith, go ahead and grab yours. In the back thing. And then tell whoever's underneath yours to go next.
mine.
Mason, go ahead. Zadie, is yours on the top and the front? Are you sure? Okay, go ahead and grab it. Mason, tell whoever's underneath you to go next. Girls at home, go ahead and get out your journals and open up to the first clean page and title it. I'll write the title on the board. Ouch. Once you get your journal, at the top of the first clean page, Smith, don't forget to tell who goes next. Zadie, did you tell whoever goes next to go next? Mason, remember you're in the front row now, so your stuff needs to go in the front row. Okay, at the top, you should write, once you open your book to the first clean page, and then at the top, write TPT, Chapter 5, Short Shrift. So, let's see, okay, so probably yours. And then today's date. So at the top of the first clean page, you need to write TPT, Chapter 5, Short Shrift, and today's date, March 1st, 2021. Then put your pencil on your page and close it. Number 1, what crimes are Milo and Talk accused of? That's text evidence. Officer Shrift says what they're accused of. What is their punishment? That is also text evidence. So both of those come from the book. Try to put them in your own words. Except, of course, the crimes, that is their official name. So, put those. Make sure you answer both parts. Number 2, summarize the story behind the witch's imprisonment. So, in your own words, why is the witch in prison? In your own words. Do not copy directly from the book. What did she do that got her put in prison? Number 3, draw a detailed picture of how you imagine Officer Shrift and Faintly Macabre, the witch. Now this, you do third. So you need to do 2 other questions before you do number 3. Does everybody understand? You do not have to do 1 and 2 before you do number 3. You just have to answer 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. 2 of those before you do number 3. Does everybody understand? So you draw a picture of Officer Shrift and Faintly Macabre. This comma should not be there. I will white it out after I finish explaining. This comma, this one should. Number 4, what is the difference between a witch and the witch that Milo meets in prison? So you tell me, what is a witch? What is a witch in this story? How are they different? Contrast them. Number 5, this is like the last one on Friday, except instead of saying, instead of putting them in order, this time you're separating the following into true facts and false facts. So what you can do is you can write like the true facts first and then the false facts. Or you can write these and very clearly and neatly put a T or an F next to them. Does everybody understand? Here are the facts. Milo and Talk receive a punishment of 10 million years in prison. The witch is the king's great aunt. Milo and Talk vow to help the witch. Faintly Macabre is an evil witch. Officer Shrift is also the judge and jailer. So you can either do like 2 sections. Here are the true facts, here are the false facts, or you can just write them in this order and then very neatly put T or F before each one. Yes, Smith.
What does vow mean?
Vow, who knows what vow means? Kingston? A promise. But like not even just a little promise, like I promise you I will do this and I will follow through, like a strong promise. Zadie.
So I could like do number 2 and number 4, then I could do number 3?
Yes. You have to do 2 of 1, 2, 4, and 5. And then you can do number 3. So you can do like 1 and 2, and then number 3, you can do 1 and 4, and then number 3, 1 and 5, and then number 3, 2 and 4, and then number 3, 2 and 5, and then number 3, or like 4 and 5, and then number 3.
And for the true and false, for the first thing where it says the
The second thing?
Yeah, so we're going off what she said.
It's in the book. What does the book say? Is it true or false? Did the book say this exact words, or did it say something different? If it said this exact word, then it's true. If it said something different, then it's false. Yes?
Do we have to do
Huh? Nope. You do not have to do number 3, but if you choose to do number 3, you have to do 2 other questions first. Cullen.
For number 5, if it's false, do we have to
Make it true?
Yeah.
No, but you can if you'd like. Yes, Carla.
Can you, on number 5, can you, do, a grid where on top you have a line and it have true and then what?
Like you can, do you want to have columns? Like here's the true facts, here's the false facts?
True. Yes.
Yes, that's okay. Just be neat so that you can fit them all so that I can read them.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions about the questions? Okay, I'm going to move them up. Remember, you need at least, whoops. Hold on. Oh gosh.
Did you start recording it?
No, it's still recording. I think it's this. Okay. You need at least 2 complete sentences for each question. You need to make sure that you write the question with the number, skip 1 or 2 lines, write the whole answer in complete sentences with good grammar, skip 1 or 2 lines, write the next question with the number, skip 1 or 2 lines, write the whole answer, and so on. You will do this for 15 minutes. Those of you that are still writing 1 sentence, that is not okay. You are going to fail every single one of these if you continue to do that. Do you understand? Yes, Mason.